The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
There you go. and here it is. It's a Friday. But
thank God it's Friday.
It's a Friday after a special council meeting.
Oh, you mean the city council meeting on the budget?
To talk about the budget. Well, that's a euphemism. This really isn't a budget. This is, this is a wish list. It's got, you see, when other people make budgets, and even though the city is supposed to be under the same rules, because you and I cannot deficit spend.
No, we can't.
We can't spend more money than we have, but the city can all the time, because what it does is it projects money they're not going to get, or they're irresponsible projections. They over-project. And I already got the word that our city administrator was already on talking about how she thinks the figures are pretty accurate. Well, let me explain something about those figures. They probably are dead on accurate, but that's irrelevant, because what she's talking about are revenue projections. Those are projections. So if I increase my revenue projection by 14%, even though I don't have any justifiable fiscal basis for that projection, you know what that means? It means I'm going to run out of money. Sounds pretty complicated, but let me give you a quick scenario. Then maybe CJ can come up with another scenario. I'm running a lemonade stand, and I'm making $10 a week in that lemonade stand. And I'm projecting my budget for next year. So I've been averaging $10 a week. And I got 3 people working for me, and they're getting like 50 cents a week. Next year, because I'm running for office and I gave all my friends a pay raise, I project I'm going to make $1,000 a week in that lemonade fund, in that lemonade stand. Is that a rational projection? Is that in the best interests of not running out of money during that year? Absolutely not. It's a projection. But projections, in order to be effective in a budget, have to be realistic, especially when you're looking at revenue. Because if anything, a city like this should under-project its revenue, because we don't want to run out of money, because we don't have a hell of a lot of money. This is the reason that there's a 4.7% increase in one fee and another, and fees are increasing, and we're maximum 2.5, and they're going to be looking for 2.5 overrides. We're broke. We're flat busted. It's like people who don't have a lot of money. They don't go to Peter Luger's in New York on a weekend to buy meat. They buy hamburger. And they probably buy 80%, not 90% meat. But that's what the real people have to do. This is what they do. And next year, when we're running short, they'll be robbing Peter to pay Paul. And everybody will say, oh me, oh my, how do we get this? I think Attorney Macy even admitted to Councilor Ponte that some of the projections, they don't have those checks in hand. Well, guess what? And they were talking almost $1 million for that particular thing. Guess what? When you run a budget like this budget is nothing but smoke and mirrors. It's a whole bunch of pay raises. They're talking about increases in health care. Well, guess what? They're paying less for health care in the FY 2018 budget than they did in the FY 2014 budget proportionately. They spent $55 million in FY14 and 54 in FY13. They're not spending that totally now, and the city's portion is lower today than it was in fiscal 13 and 14. Do not whine about the health care being the big problem. The big problem is this budget has grown drastically, and it's grown in one area: salaries.
But Chip, let's get...
My lemonade stand, by the way, will go out of business with those projections.
Oh, yeah, there's no question about it. But, you know, we just heard a very similar story. I think that was from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Yeah, that's right.
Hey!
There's a scenario. Well, just
Over-projecting their revenues. And now, in the last 30 days of the month, of the year, the fiscal year, not even 30 days, we got, what, we got 14 days left.
Yeah.
14 days in the fiscal year, and they're not even at 3/4 of the revenue expected, which means deficit spending.
We're broke.
We're broke.
Again, we're in a hole. And by the way, the state reps who just gave themselves a $35 million pay raise are now projecting another tax.
Right, a 4% surtax on millionaires. Okay? And they had a nice, sketchy constitutional convention so that it goes to the ballot in 2018. And I hope that the voters vote it down.
Well,
I hope they vote it down, because if they don't, remember, if you win the Powerball, if you win the lottery, you're going to be paying a 4% surtax.
but you know that's you know something. But that's the point. You know, they're going to pick on the millionaires, and they're going to use the thing they can afford it. You know, they should pay their fair share. They get a lot of tax. But you know something? I got a better proposal. We should storm the Bastille and demand another constitutional convention of the people.
Correct.
Because my proposal to that constitutional convention is we have a 20% tax levy on all state legislators who gave themselves a $35 million pay raise.
Exactly. Exactly.
You know, so that's my proposal. You guys keep lining your pockets with a total disregard for the fiscal condition of the state, and then you tax the crap out of everybody, rich, poor, and it doesn't care. No tax holidays, no breaks for anything, increases in everything you can increase in, but what you do is increase your paycheck. And guess what? That's exactly as you said, CJ, exactly what the city of Fall River is doing. It's like they're like the lemmings marching off the bridge, you know, or the ducks
Yeah,
that
there's no question
imprinted on
about
their
it.
mommy. Our mommy, the state, has overspent, overprojected. So the little duckling from Fall River is following the state's, like the ducks do when they imprint on the mother, and they walk across in a line, and they follow the mother all over the place.
There's a very old saying, children learn what they live. And that's exactly what we're doing.
And you know, the thing is, they talk about these things like they're real numbers, and they're not. It's a projection.
Right.
And projections are supposed to be reasonable. When we make an actuarial projection, healthcare went up 9%. Well, we've run under budget how many years? It went up so much that they're not fully funding their share of the health care.
Right.
That's how confident they are we're going to run under that 9%. So this is all crap. It's all smoke and mirrors. This budget is baloney, and what the end result is, we're going to be short at the end of the year. Look at the purple bags. They projected money. When's the last time that thing ever came even close to what they projected it was going to make? And they got an increase in that too.
Yeah.
And it's like, really? You're going to, I mean, talk about not knowing, learning from history. Here's a program that since its inception has never come close to getting the revenue that they projected it was going to get, and they put it in the budget again and increase what we're going to get. It's like, really? This is a revenue-generating program? When? That's my question. When has it ever hit its target?
Never.
I want you to show me one fiscal year since this program has been in existence that we raised as much as they said it would in the budget.
We haven't, and we know we haven't. Now, the thing is that, already the sixth floor is running around saying, oh no, I'm not raising the taxes. Oh no, I'm not raising the fees because it's the city council that does it. Well, you know what, Mr. Mayor? Here's what maybe the city council should do. Seeing that you're saying they're doing it, maybe the six of the nine, because we know your three political crooked letter people over there, all right? Joe, Steve, and Steve are going to be kissing yours, so no matter what, this budget's going to get yes votes for them. Okay, but maybe the other six should say no to your budget every single time it comes before them. And I think it was really piss poor that Kathy Ann Viveris did not show up to that meeting. That's her job. It's your fault for scheduling two important meetings at the same time. Nobody else's.
You are 100% right, because it's part of their duty and obligation to appear at the city, especially that, as a matter of fact, I remember very well, because I had a copy of all the city administrators' contracts when I was running the union. They were mandated to attend every city council meeting.
Right. It's
part of their contract. It's part of their duties and responsibilities to attend, let alone the budget hearings.
Hey, who cares? You know why? This mayor doesn't even follow the law. He doesn't follow the law at all. City ordinance says that you must establish residency within 18 months. He has two personal friends that have been working for the city that had not established residency. And why are they still there? So under Chapter 44, Section 62, I think maybe the DA needs to get involved.
Well, they violate the law so often, it's unbelievable.
They don't even know what the law is.
And the other question I have is, why is Joe Macy being asked anything? This is a budget hearing. He's the judicial branch. Why are they talking? Unless they want a legal opinion, go sit in the audience and talk to your friends, because that's not the people that should be there. It's like when we're going to do the school budget. They're going to have the school department people there, the treasurers. They're not going to bring is Bruce Assad going to go to the meeting? What's he going to input? Well, since he's there, though, I have a question. The city has said at meetings they're underfunding the health care. They're not going to give their 75%. I hate to remind you of this, Judge, but there is a law, 150E, and I actually read that section of 150E at one point in time a while back when they were bringing a contract up before the city council, that says that when you put that contract in front of the city council, which all the city unions except the police, as far as I know, now have collective bargaining agreements, that it has to be fully funded. So if that contract says that you are required as a city to pay 75% of the health care costs, and you do not budget the 75%, you only budget it on paper, but you admit you're not budgeting 75%, as far as I'm concerned, number one, you're violating your statutory obligation under 150E, and secondly, you're violating your fiduciary responsibility to the employees and retirees of Fall River, because if we run out of money in the health care and you steal it from somewhere else, that's not the way it's supposed to be done. The law clearly states if you agree to something in a contract, you have to fund it. And you're not funding it by your own admission. And don't give me the we're a self-insurer. I don't care whether you're a self-insurer or a premium-based plan. If you sign a contract and you say that I'm going to be responsible for 75%, you better have that covered in your budget. Not just by putting a number in there, but by actually having the money in there.
Now, don't you always do that? You sign a contract with the bank for a mortgage.
That's right.
And you're only going to fund it 62.7%.
That's right. The bank says you're going to pay X amount of dollars. You say, well, yeah, okay. And then you say, look, here's my budget. I got the money in there. Then you only send them 2/3 of the money. Right. And the bank's going to just say, oh, okay.
No
That's
problem.
not a problem.
Yeah.
Not a problem.
And there's a term that lawyers like to throw around a lot. It's called breach of contract. Only in Fall River. You can't make it up. So according to, our friends over at the Herald News, separate increases in water and sewer enterprise funds slated to go up 4.7 and 1.7% respectively. 4.7.
Well, who cares? Is this city, everybody's loaded. 2.5% max tax increase, 4.7. I mean, look, I know there's all those people in the city of Fall River that are on a fixed income, which most of the people who own houses in this city now, especially single families, are retirees who are on fixed incomes. And the only reason it's still existing is the fact that they don't have a mortgage anymore. But now their fees and taxes are exceeding what their mortgage used to be. That's the whole problem. The problem is, look, you can't have champagne tastes when you've only got a beer budget. And the other problem is, this is not the time to be creating new jobs and giving people, it's the deluxe treatment. We have two separate worlds in this city. I was told that our drug, whatever his,
Our addiction grant coordinator, I think.
Living Lodge, your friend Living Lodge, went to a seminar or some kind of a conference in New York, and he rented an Expedition, which is a very large vehicle.
Yes,
it's like
it is.
another party bus. But he rented an Expedition, and he was only supposed to be going by himself. Whether he went by himself again is another question. And guess where he stayed?
The Park Plaza.
Better than that.
Oh,
The
no.
Ritz-Carlton.
I was going to say, the only place better than that is the Ritz.
The Ritz-Carlton. He didn't stay at Motel 6, but you know damn well he wasn't paying, because if he was paying, he'd be staying at the Motel 6. I knew a lot of guys like that. When somebody else was paying, they ordered scotch. When they were paying, it was draft beer.
That's right.
So but that's the thing. There's nothing. We get our little party bus with the police lights, and we stay at the Ritz-Carlton, and nothing but the best for these people that are on the public dole.
I think it's time for a 6610 request, and I know we have a viewer out there that loves doing these, for Mike Aguiar's reimbursement request from the city, including the itemized receipts for the hotel and the vehicle. And why did he need to rent a vehicle? Did he drive to New York?
Last time I checked, New York had a pretty good subway system, and I was on it just a year or two ago.
And they have a pretty good they have a pretty good system of taxis. They're available everywhere.
Taxis
and unlike Fall River, they're handicap accessible.
Well, that's another issue. Yeah.
That's a whole other issue. But I think that it's funny. So maybe we should, our friend out there who's watching, if you can do a 6610 request for Mr. Aguiar's reimbursements for his recent trip to New York, I think it might be a good plus, so that people know how much money you, the taxpayer, has spent for the drug czar to go have a party. Well, that's what this is.
You don't want to be, you don't want to have to sleep on a Motel 6 bed when you can sleep on a Ritz-Carlton bed.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's the point. The point is that, look, we know this city. Look, I don't want to hear about this is the master plan because in 20 years we're going to turn into Xanadu. This is no longer going to be Fall River. It's going to be Xanadu. This is all absolute. I mean, it's hysterically funny that they're that delusionary. The fact is that, look, we got to try to get jobs back in this city, people to work, but at best, Fall River's never going to be a Newton. We are not a suburb of Boston where all the PhDs and the doctors and all the high-paid Boston people live in all those satellite communities around Boston. They just, by nature, have a different demographic. But that doesn't mean we can't be a viable city like we were when people had jobs. We had businesses that ran a lot more businesses. And we had restaurants and shops and not secondhand furniture stores, real furniture stores. And, it was a community that basically was, it was a blue-collar town. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's nice, Durfee always had one of the smallest basketball teams in the state, but they managed to win a whole bunch of state championships. Why? Because of the grit. They're a well-coached team. They played as a team, and they were always formidable. Why? They were hard-nosed, blue-collar kids. They grew up. Most of their parents worked in mills or somewhere. They had jobs, but they were working people. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. You can be proud of that. Let's not pretend that let's not pretend we're Newton. As a matter of fact, it reminds me of one of the most, to me, one of the most telling things in the world. Monty Ferris, the senior, the man who started the Venus de Milo, began from humble beginnings. He worked in a dye house. He didn't have a lot of education. He used to go to the Fall River Boys Club on Picasso Street to take a shower every day to wash the dye off himself before he went home because he didn't have hot water. And he created one of the greatest banquet facilities in the world at one time. And I had people that had gone to banquet facilities all over the United States and said that was the best one they'd ever been in. And in his office, he had a picture that was drawn for him. It was a caricature, and it was behind his desk. And it was a picture of him with a cigar in one hand and a fistful of money in the other hand. And the caption above that picture said, "If you were born a penny, you'll never be a silver dollar." And that meant that you never forget where you come from. Just because you got money now, don't pretend that you're one of the blue bloods. Monty Ferris Sr. always remembered where he came from. He took care of his friends that were less fortunate. He gave millions of dollars to St. Jude, and he was a credit to the city of Fall River because of one thing. He was well-grounded. He knew who he was. He wasn't going to pretend to be something he wasn't. And guess what? Let's stop this baloney of trying to pretend that someday we're going to become Newton. Let's just get back to being Fall River.
You know, Chip, I think that what's happening with this administration, his people, and even with our city council, is something a friend of yours always says.
The views and opinions...
That's not what your friend always says.
Even though it's true, the views...
Yeah, even though it's true. There it is. This is what your friend always says.
The views and opinions...
No, that's not what our friend always says. Why does he keep doing that?
Sabotage.
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
I think that says it very clearly.
That's exactly right. And it's nice to have goals, but sometimes when your goals are too lofty, you are doomed to failure. There's an old Zen saying, with expectations, one only perceives the boundaries. That means if you set your expectations too low, you'll never achieve what you could have achieved.
That's right.
But if you also set your goals too high, you're doomed to failure, and then you'll be disappointed.
But that's where we are.
So just get in there and be Zen and work as hard as you can to make the city as good as it can be. But let's not try to muddy the water by making these promises that nobody can deliver. I don't care whether it's Jasiel Correia or the other JC. He's not making this place Newton.
That's right. And this is the problem that people have, because the Fall River voter, and I'm speaking to you, the Fall River voter, for some reason, is grasping at any type of straw to save their city, to save themselves. And when they do that, they'll buy any line of bull that they can get. And the problem is that many of you can see through it, but you just don't want to. You do this, and you hope that by blinding yourselves, it'll just pass you by. That's not what happens in life. When you do this, it comes back and bites you in the ass.
Yeah, you can't cover that one.
That's right.
Taking your hands away from your eyes, then you're going to know what happened. But no, you're right. And the reality is that, listen, this is an election year. It's the season, and it's upon us, and it's going to get really intense over the next few months. And I'm going to tell you all, listen to the candidates, listen to what they got to say, listen to their ideas, but forget about the promises. We didn't get here overnight. We didn't get from that blue-collar city to this cesspool overnight. And we're not going to get out of this overnight. And anybody that promises you that in 10 years this place is going to be Newton, or in 2 years if we do this, it's going to fix something. No, this has got to be done incrementally. We dug this hole for years. How many? We began
decades.
Decades and decades. We began to import these people into the projects. We began to advertise for people. It started small. Now it's rampant. The drugs, we're bringing them in from everywhere. Let's make this place the drug haven. And even the Herald News said something about that. You know, we didn't get here, you know, like from last mayoral term. We got here slowly. We've got to turn the direction and begin to creep back to where we were. One step at a time. We have to rebuild this city incrementally, and any politician that makes these ridiculous promises, forget about them. Just ask the people that are running for office for what their solutions are. How do we stop this assault on a taxpayer? How do we stop giving jobs and pay raises to every political crony in the world? The city is broke, and we continue to make things up to give people jobs and change titles to give them pay raises, and giving people $30,000 and $40,000 pay raises in a community where the average person doesn't make that for a family of four. It's obscene what's going on in this city, under the guise of we're improving it, or this window dressing of feel good. Oh yeah, we're going to take care of it. There was an article in the Herald about that facility, that it's, you know, all this is, it's an election year, and Mark Monroe Dion wrote about it and said basically the same thing. Listen, it's an election season. Instead of listening to promises, don't listen. Ask questions. Ask for what they're going to do to change the direction of this city. And if they're going to make, and if their platform is more promises that we're going to turn this city around by having a drug czar, or someone to bring more tourists, the director of tourism. We're going to save the city with a director of tourism. We're going to get millions of people to come to Fall River, stand out South Main Street and see if they can get hit by bullets. But then again, it won't make the newspaper unless somebody gets hit, or at least it'll make it 3 days later. Look, let's be realistic. We got here, and it took a while to get here. And anybody that tries to make a promise that we're gonna be out of this in a year or two is full of crap.
Well, now that you're talking about gunfire, breaking news: Michelle Carter, the girl who was charged with assisting her friend killing himself, she was found guilty. She is still currently released on bail, and she will be sentenced on August 3rd. She could serve up to 20 years in jail for this conviction, and. So I just figured I'd let our viewers know.
Oh, yeah, that's a fairly precedent-setting case.
It will be precedent-setting because now, assisting in suicide, you can go to jail. And you don't even have to give them the pills. All you can do is say, yeah, go kill yourself. Which really, I think, on appeal might get overturned, because I think it is a restriction of their freedom of speech rights. And I think their First Amendment rights do have to play a part in this.
Look, yeah, and you're right, CD, because whether you agree, I think her conduct was reprehensible.
Yes.
But it's not illegal. That's the problem. A lot of people don't get that some things are legal, but they may not be morally right, but they are legally correct. And this thing, her conduct, to me, at least in my opinion, was reprehensible to basically tell somebody to do that and then encourage them to do that. But as you said, I don't know. I think this case is going to not stop here. It's going to.
Oh, I think it's going to go on to appeal.
It's going to go, because I think this is going to set. Because what do we do in some states where assisted suicide is legal?
Right. And there they actually do the physical assistance.
That's right.
They put the needle in the arm, or they give them the pills, or whatever the case may be, or they put them in the garage and turn on the car. So it's going to be interesting, but can't do much about it.
Well, don't forget the budget hearing. Stay really angry, and remember, None of these numbers are real. They're all projections, and they're BS projections. So stay
And
really angry.
call your city councilors and tell them you are not for these tax and water increases. Otherwise, you're going to pay through the nose. Stay angry and have a great weekend.